got friends only wanna talk business. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I've been reading all the war, and I've been shutting down the stars. Yeah, cause when it rains and it pours, yeah, and I'm ready for some more.
Welcome to this week's Put That Coffee Down, the Freight Sales Show for Closers. My name's Kevin Hill. I'm your host today. I have a very special episode for you. It's a fireside chat that I did with David Hoffeld. He's the author of The Science of Selling and newly released back in April, Sell More with Science. I've talked to David on Put That Coffee Down and on other virtual summits 2 or 3 different times. I think this was probably by far my favorite episode with him. So we talked about having a growth mindset and the science and the evidence in psychology, sociology, human nature that backs up some key concepts that we go over. Part of that with having a growth mindset is flushing and reflecting. So it's a concept, whenever you fail, when things don't go your way, you reflect on it, and then you flush it out. You don't think about it, you don't dwell on it, you set your mind on your goals. And the more focused you are on your goals, minor things just don't matter anymore. And as a special treat at the end of this, we see Kevin, that's me, 30 years in the future, and me worrying about myself 30 years in the future, because part of science says that we value future Kevin far less than today's Kevin. So we did a Photoshop. It's good. It's me 30 years and probably 30,000 frozen margaritas later. But with all of that, enjoy this episode. It was fantastic talking to David. I think you'll find a lot of value in this. Welcome back to the 3PL Summit. We have an exciting lineup for you all day long. We've had some great morning sessions. We have another one right here. We have David Hoffeld, author of a couple sales books, and it's all about science and sales. His new one, which will be out here in the next week or so, is Sell More with Science, and it is all, science-based, I guess I could say. Right, David?
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah. You were here with us last year at the Virtual 3PL Summit. You've been on Put That Coffee Down a couple times. We've talked about The Science of Selling, which is the book you published, I think, November of 2016. And now we have Sell More with Science. Can you give us a breakdown of kind of how you look at selling and analyze it?
Yeah, well, the exciting news is that today we have access to literally thousands of scientific studies that can inform all of us on the specific things we can do to become more effective at selling. And so in my first book, we really focused on how does the buying decision occur? And we deconstructed that using science and showed how we can align how we sell with it. But in this new book, I turned my attention really to us as sellers, and we look at what does science say regarding the mindsets we can embrace, or the specific traits we can embrace, or the way we can achieve more of our goals, and even the way we position our product or service, or even sales ethics. What does science say regarding all that? And when you look at it, there is just an ocean of information that you and I can leverage to help us be far more effective when we're engaging our clients and potential clients.
But let's talk, you threw out mindset. I think that's kind of the fundamental, the first step in a successful endeavor, whether it's sales or business or relationships, whatever it is that mindset. Can you dive into the science behind the mindset and why it's so important for success in anything you do in life?
Yeah, this is really, really powerful because the scientific research on this, and there's decades of it, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of studies that we read over, and it just really confirms that success begins in the mind. And that's not just a cliche. Science says that's a reality. But not only that, but there are specific mindsets that are predictive of heightened levels, not just of sales success, but really success in anything. And in the book, we dive into a number of these mindsets. One I'll share with you real quickly is what I call an achievement mindset. The researchers refer to this as self-efficacy. And this really is the belief that can I accomplish any goal? And what the research shows is that your belief in accomplishing a goal is actually a precursor to actually doing it. And so all of us have an achievement mindset. The question is, how strong is it? And what we've seen from the research is, think of your achievement mindset as almost like a mental thermostat. It's a self-imposed ceiling. And there is so much interesting research on when people break through this self-imposed ceiling and they grow their achievement mindset, that it takes their ability to achieve more to a whole nother level. And the good news is, science shows us the specific things that all of us can do to responsibly grow our achievement mindset and really set ourselves up for a lot more success.
And that really reminds me of maybe the first sales book ever written, or certainly the first self-help book, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, right? It was all about that mindset, kind of what you detailed right there, and now we have science to back that up. What are some of the most interesting studies about mindset and breaking through that barrier, that I guess exit velocity of getting out of your own way in a lot of ways?
Yeah, there is so many really powerful research, and when you read the research, it's just something you already know. Of course, how you think matters. We all get that. But really, when you see how much it matters, it really takes you back. And what the science shows is how all of us can responsibly, and I say responsibly, grow our achievement mindset. What doesn't work is a lot of times lying to ourselves, or people will look in the mirror and say, hey, I can do it. I can sell more. I can sell more. I can sell more. And that doesn't do the research as anything. In fact, it's actually counterproductive. A number of studies have found what does work, because it creates overconfidence, but what does work is building your confidence responsibly. In fact, one researcher, a social psychologist, David Myers, said that our confidence grows through hard-won achievements. In other words, we want to challenge ourselves. One of the top things you can do is you want to earn your success. You want to earn your confidence. And when you put yourself in challenging situations, because any goal is going to be a challenge, so you can break that down into little challenges, things I can do today, things I can do over the weekend. I earn my success, and you'll find that your confidence will naturally grow as you push yourself. A second thing, though, the research shows that kills an achievement mindset is negativity. And we all struggle with this, especially in selling, where there is a lot of rejection, even for the best of us. And so how do you deal with that? One strategy that I created based on the research is what I call reflect and flush. So it's powerful and it's simple to do. So when something negative happens to you, let's say a sales call that doesn't go your way, and it's messing with you a little bit. I mean, it's plaguing your mind. It's hard to go on to the next. Reflect and flush. First thing, reflect on what is the lesson I can get from that. So I want to use everything to get better. So what could I learn from that? And once I identify a lesson and I think about how I'm going to act on it, then I refuse to think about it anymore. Because any more of pondering that situation will just pull me down, not build me up. And so I want to flush it. Mentally, you flush it, and instead you refocus your mind on something else more empowering. Reflect and flush frees you to, when something bad happens, and bad things occur in life and in sales, you reflect on how can I use this to get better? And then once I've squeezed all the value out, I flush it. I will not think about it anymore. You just refocus your mind on something else. And if that thought comes back into your mind, and often it will, you just, again, say, no, I'm not thinking about that. And I refocus on something else. And it frees you. So it builds you up rather than tears you down. And most of us, if we think about over our course of our life, oftentimes the things that limit us in our achievement mindset are just comments by others or situations that are very challenging that we allow to beat us up. And so you want to take control of what you think about, because the science says that can be transformative.
And that is exactly right. That is transformative. A lot of the things that weigh us down is like chains that we can't get out of our own way in a lot of ways. It is reflecting, learning your lesson, and then putting it in the past and doing better your next action, the next day, the next week, next month, and just keep learning all the baggage and the garbage. Just let it go And it's very freeing, and it allows you to focus on things that will help you instead of lingering or dwelling on past items or past failures that are going to weigh you down and impede your progress.
Yeah, exactly right. And this is not a small issue. I think everyone knows this matters. What the science, as I mentioned, what it really shows is it matters more than you think it does. And oftentimes, the one thing that is holding many people that I coach or train back is their mindset. And once they embrace, and this is just one of the mindsets we talk about in the book, but once they embrace these empowering mindset, it frees them up to go to a whole nother level. In fact, one way to think about it is, more often than not, the biggest reason you're not more successful is how you think.
Mm-hmm. You are what you think in a lot of ways. If you think a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of things you can't change in the past, or you can't change around you, you're not in control of those changes. If that's where you're spending most of your mental energy, you're not going to get anywhere. You focus in on the items you can change, and a lot of that time that is hard work, it's attitude, it's activity, and it's learning every single day to get better and better.
Yeah, and that's another one of the mindsets we talk about in the book as well, is that growth mindset, which is the idea that your sales skills, will apply to selling, are like a muscle that you must continually develop. And what we talk about in the book as well is what science says, and this is, I think, really a strong takeaway, is how do I grow my growth mindset? Because growth mindsets are really predictive of sales success and success in almost anything. The key is, okay, how do I do that? And we list a number of specific things you can act on immediately so that you can begin applying these, because that's the key. It's acknowledging that it matters, and then, okay, what do I do about that in the real world? And that's what I've really tried to put in this book, is exercises, examples, far more than the last time, that walk you through application. Okay, how do I do this? Okay, I get it matters. I get here's what the science says, but how do I live this out? Like, how do I make this help me get better? And that's what we focus on.
Application, that is the key. It is. And you talked about goals at first too. Mindset and goals. I mean, goals don't really matter if you don't have the right mindset. But if you do have that right mindset, that growth mindset, or the growth squared mindset, how does that affect the goals that you place in front of it? You know, how you define your goals and how you go achieve those.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Those mindsets, what people find is when they grow that achievement mindset and they embrace a growth mindset, not only are they more willing to choose bigger goals that can be more transformative to their life and career, but they're also more likely to achieve them. It just opens up their whole thinking. But what's really interesting too, and we have a whole chapter on this in the book, is what else science says regarding things any of us can do to achieve our goals. I'll share with you a couple real quickly that are simple and easy to use. Number one, there's a lot of research that shows that goal specificity matters. In fact, one meta-analysis that looked at over 35 years of research on goal setting, and they said, okay, what is common among all these studies? One of the big takeaways from that meta-analysis was specific goals matter. In other words, sell more next year is not a good goal. You want to get very specific so you know, okay, where am I in relation to that goal? But that's not all. One thing that's really interesting that I've implemented from the research is keeping your focus on your goals daily. And a lot of successful people talk about this as well, but the research shows out of sight, out of mind, because of how our brains work. There's some fascinating science on this. But what this means for me, one of the things I do is I wrote down my top 7 goals, and I have them right in front of me in my bathroom, right next to my mirror. So every day, at least twice, in the morning and at night before I go to bed, I can't help but read through and think about my goals, because they're literally staring me in the face. One final thing I'll share with you that's really interesting in the research that I haven't heard before is something called mental contrasting. And there's about 25 years of research on this. It should be more well known than it is. But what it says, there's 4 steps to it. Number one, you think about, okay, what goal do I want to achieve? And then second, okay, why does that goal matter to me? That's great. But really where mental contrasting gives you some real value and helps set you up for success is the next 2 steps. The third step is where you say, okay, what obstacles could come up when I'm achieving this goal? And you start thinking through, okay, what could actually happen? And the research shows this doesn't demotivate you because you've already thought through the goal and committed to it and understand why it matters. You think about what obstacles. Well, this could happen, maybe this could happen. And then the final step is you begin to develop plans. If that does happen, what will I do? What's really interesting is the data shows that when people do encounter those obstacles or even others that they hadn't thought about, because they've gone through that mental contrasting process, that they're more resilient, that they're less likely to abandon their goal. They're able to adapt more easily. They don't get blindsided. And because any meaningful goal is going to present a lot of challenges as you pursue it. If it was easy, you would have already done it, right? So anything that matters is going to be hard. And mental contrasting sets you up. So when that challenge arises, it doesn't catch you off guard and it doesn't demotivate you. In fact, you're able to respond really quickly. And so mental contrasting is just one of the many things that science says we all should be doing regardless of the goal. Sales, personal, doesn't matter, because it radically improves your ability to achieve that goal.
And that's really interesting because I found myself doing that over the last, 10, 12 years, and my success has grown because of that. It's a little bit like don't sweat the small stuff. I know what I want to do. You get these little obstacles, you just work through them. A lot of times there are opportunities. If you can turn them into little opportunities, it just accelerates you to your goal. But I didn't realize that I was going through those 4 steps. But it really is true. There's a lot of things that used to bother me quite a bit. They don't even matter to me anymore. It's just a problem. I'll just work through it and continue on to where I want to be.
Yeah, it's so empowering because when you look at the science, for example, of goals, we talk about 7 science-backed strategies in the book, and using 1 or 2 of them radically increases your ability to achieve any goal. When you use all 7, and it supercharges it. I mean, they have a compounding effect. So science, it's interesting. Successful people figure out a number of these things through trial and error, but it's rare someone's using all of them. So regardless of how successful, or even if you're brand new to selling or anything else, you can leverage this science in your favor, and it just gives you this giant push forward where now you're setting yourself up to experience more success faster. And that's why the science just brings such transparency rather than trial and error and trying to guess our way to success like we've all had to do in the past. Today, we can leverage this science, and when you do, instantly, it always works, and it always makes you more effective. It's just amazing, and that's why I love sharing this information with people all around the world, is once they use it, they always come back and say, oh my word, like I'm able to achieve stuff I didn't think I'd be able to achieve for years. I can do it now in months because I'm leveraging some of these principles in my favor, and that can make all the difference.
And what were those 7 steps again in the new book?
Yeah, so I'll go through them real quickly. Number 1, we want to focus on goals that captivate us, and we talk about how to do that to make sure those goals are motivating to us. Second, we want to get into really specific goals that we can feel good about committing to. Third, we want to focus on that mental contrasting that I shared a moment ago. Keeping those attention on your goals is also key. Another thing that we didn't talk about is breaking it down into sub-goals, right? So if I have a big goal of increasing my sales by 54%, and I map out what that looks like. Okay, what does that look like on a monthly basis, a weekly basis, a daily basis? What's my plan? A goal without a plan is just a wish, right? And that doesn't mean anything. So what can I do today? What do I need to skill up on? Who do I need to talk to today so that when I compound those activities over the days, the months, and the weeks, it's going to make a big, big difference. We also talk about something called action triggers as well, which is a way to reduce willpower when it comes to achieving your goals, because that's a big problem is oftentimes you don't feel like pursuing a goal, even if you're motivated. You just don't feel like doing it that day. And action triggers, I use them personally when I write my books. It's a game changer when it comes to doing those things. And if you've ever had this happen, and I know everyone has, I want to do something today to move closer to my goal, but when it comes to that time, I want to push it off. What do? Action triggers will change it. And then the final thing is really looking at one of the biggest problems with achieving goals is they happen in the future. And what the research shows is really fascinating. We devalue our future selves. In fact, studies show we view future David, David a year from now, almost the way I view helping a stranger. I mean, I want to do it, but how much am I willing to sacrifice today to help future David? All of us know this. Maybe in our younger years, we can all relate to in an evening, maybe we indulge a little too much in some things, and the next day we go, why did I do that? Because we devalue morning David of tomorrow, right? We're like, well, nighttime David wants to have fun. I don't really care about morning David because I know he's not going to like me, but it doesn't matter. So the good news is there are specific things that researchers have found to reduce this effect, because this is a major problem. One of the things the researchers looked at was retirement savings. How do you motivate people to save for retirement? Because that's 30 years in the future for some people. And so I don't really care that much about, 65, 70-year-old David as I do this version, right? I want to spend my money and have fun. So what can we do about that? And that's a big deal when it comes to goals, because goals happen in the future, but the only way they happen is if you make changes today. And so we talk about specific things we can all do to improve in that area too, which I thought is really a unique contribution to science and something that you don't often hear as far as practical strategies in the self-help literature.
Yeah, I mean that's I never really thought about it, that we devalue our future selves so severely. I know we do devalue, we don't have the same amount of value on it, but it is like a complete stranger. Kevin in 30 years, complete stranger. Why should I care?
Exactly, but there are neat things you can do. For example, one study I'll share with you on retirement, they had a little knob for the participants, and they would say how much money are they going to save. And what they did was they put a picture on the screen, and they hooked it up so when you turned the knob, the more you turned it, so 10, 15, 20, 30% of your income, whatever you turned it to, the more this picture of you, but an older version of you, they aged the picture to retirement age, the more the person would smile. And what they found was this made a huge impact on how much money people would commit to saving for retirement. Why? Because it gave them a picture of, okay, that's a future me. I can see a picture of it. And now I'm more attuned with, okay, what's going to matter later? But there are specific things we can do just through some thought exercises that are very simple where we can get that same effect and really set ourselves up to do those things we want to do, but we find hard in the moment that are going to make our lives so much better down the road. And so that's where I think this science is illuminating. It lets us know what's reality. And then, okay, what do I do about it? How do I actually get better because of it? And as we've talked about so far, everything we've talked about applies to selling and everything else in life you want to achieve. So this is one thing about this book I'm excited about. This can be applied to selling, but it can also be applied to just anything you want to achieve in any area, and it'll give you that extra oomph you need to get to it.
Sells his life, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Aaron take a picture of myself and age me 30 years. I'm going to put it on my monitor so I think about the future Kevin from now on. Definitely, and I relate, on sales and writing, two things that I do almost on a daily basis these days is the hardest thing to do is get up in the morning and pick up the phone or pick up the pen. Because there are two things that hold limitless possibilities, but you have to get your mind right to sit down and focus and do it because it's difficult. It is difficult.
There's no doubt about it. Yeah, and that's one of the things that helped me, that I mentioned action triggers that take a lot of the willpower out of it. What an action trigger is, real quickly, is it links a behavior with an environmental stimulus. So what that means in English is, I'll give you a real life example. When I was writing my first book, I was falling behind. I was busy. I had a lot of demands on me. And I would say, okay, I want to write for 3 hours today. I'll try to do something in the afternoon. The afternoon would come. I'd be busy. I'd say, well, I'll try to do it in the evening. The evening would come. And you know the deal. We're just push it off further and further. So I'm like, okay, physician, heal thyself. So I'm like, okay, what do? I got to use science. I couldn't find any help. And so I started researching it, and I stumbled on action triggers. And here's the one I did. I made up an action trigger that after I put my children to bed at night, I would write. And so I never wondered, when will I write? After I put my children to bed. So almost all of the science of selling was written between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning. Almost all of it, because now I didn't have to try to get willpower to write. I knew, okay, when am I going to write? After I put my kids to bed. As soon as they were in bed, I would come down in my home office and I would start writing. And it freed me because I didn't have to try to find the time, because I had this appointment with myself, this action trigger. And what the research shows is you are 300% more likely to do a behavior when you do an action trigger than almost anything else. It is incredibly powerful. There are so many cool studies on this we could talk about all day. But action triggers, if you're not using them, you should be, because it'll make your life much easier and make it more likely you do those things that will help you accomplish your goals.
And I will start doing that, and I'll read about it in your book coming out. When's the official release date?
March 22nd, it will be released. We have electronic version, the hardcover, and the audio all coming out on the 22nd, but you can pre-order anytime, anywhere fine books are sold.
Perfect. And that is Sell More with Science, David Hoffeld. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll have you back on and put that copy down again once the book is published, and we can sell some copies for you. And for all our audience out there, stay tuned for some more great content here at the 3PL Summit.
I got friends only wanna talk business. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I've been reading all the work.